Now on BBC Two, if you'd like to boldly go to a Star Trek convention, you wouldn't be alone.
Hi, I'm Oki Lewis from Coventry, and I love Star Trek.
Hello, I'm Maureen Hitchens. I live at Middleton Cheney in Northamptonshire, and I'm a Star Trek mastermind.
I'm Dr. Sandy Wolfson, Principal Lecturer in Psychology at the University of Northumbria, and I've been studying the psychology of Star Trek.
Captain Scarlet.
Well, I was a teenager when Star Trek began. The original series was very exciting. It was unusual. It had a kind of multicultural crew, which you didn't normally see on television. And it dealt with a lot of social issues. And even as a teenager, I was aware that it was trying to send a message across about how people could be in the future.
What I liked about it originally was that we used to be able to sit and take the mic out of Kirk because he is an idiot. And after that, it just became an obsession. Had to watch it.
I enjoy the fact that you're not restricted by the barriers of normal drama, that you can create your own worlds with their own rules.
Space, the final frontier.
These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its continuing mission to explore strange new worlds.
To seek out new life and new civilizations.
To boldly go where no one has gone before.
The original series began in the 1960s. It was written by Gene Roddenberry. In a way, it was kind of an analogy to a Western show, only it took place in outer space rather than in the West.
The original series that were made in the 60s, it's very much 60s ways of looking at things. Girls in miniskirts and go-go boots, whereas the next generation is much more politically correct. That was made in the 80s.
When the new series started, we were like, well, we're not going to watch it. No, we will not watch it. We're not having it. How dare they replace it? How dare they replace Kirk? And then my friend, he watched it, and he goes, it's pretty good. So I watched it, I thought, it's very good. And that was it, really. Never looked back. Now I don't watch the original series, I only watch the next gen. The stories in the two are quite similar. It's a vessel, and their mission is to cruise through space, basically, and just go as far as they can, meet new races, new species, anything like that, and see what go on. Next Generation, I find, tends to deal with more realistic problems, but set in a science fiction area, whereas the original series was just science fiction full on. It had no morals or anything really, although it did have the very first on-screen interracial kiss, which was pretty cool.
Uhura, most people remember Uhura, which she was black, which was unusual because she was a lieutenant, she was an officer. To have a black officer and a woman in such, it was groundbreaking for the 60s in America.
Star Trek has been very proactive in dealing with social issues. And in fact, if there is a social issue to be dealt with, Star Trek probably has. They've looked into such issues as what advanced technology might mean for people, problems of racism, sexism, gender identity.
I am female. I was born that way. I have had those feelings, those longings, all of my life.
It's total equality. Be man, woman, able-bodied, disabled, black, white, whatever colour you are, whatever sex you are, whatever your ability, they all have their equal place in Star Trek.
Let me get this straight. You're saying it's a woman's game because women are weak and need more help.
Yes.
The popularity of Star Trek is really quite phenomenal. There are fans all over the world. They're a very wide kind of group, people in very kind of elite occupations, students, people who are unemployed and trying to get work, people from all over the world, both males and females, young and old. There is no such thing as a typical Star Trek fan.
I wouldn't say I was a huge fan, although I am quite a lot bigger than the closet Trekkies that are out there. I buy a lot of merchandise. Star Trek fact files, Star Trek comics, the toys, although they're for kids. I'm a big kid at heart, so I'll buy them as well. Yeah, I have my uniform. Anything I see that I like for Star Trek, if I could afford it, I'll buy it or save up to buy it.
Well, people do get very wound up in Star Trek. I did come across one person who had spent £10,000 in the course of 1 year going to conventions around the world and buying all the merchandise.
Are you out of your mind?
I wouldn't trade any of it. No, it's all mine. Doesn't matter what it costs or what it is. It's my stuff that I've collected, so it doesn't matter what it's worth, it's mine. And it's staying mine.
And those are the facts.
But by and large, I think most people find it very psychologically helpful. It's a beneficial activity to people. And also I found that a lot of fans seem to feel that they've been inspired by Star Trek to go into a particular career.
I chose computer graphics, an animation degree, so I could get into special effects, so that one day, hopefully, in the not too distant future, I can have a career in special effects and be part of some science fiction series. Yeah, I mean, my ultimate dream would be to be part of a Star Trek science fiction series, but that's going to be very doubtful, isn't it? So any science fiction series would do me, but Star Trek would be, oh yes.
None of the people that I've ever spoken to have lost their grip on reality. They're quite able to have a great time with Star Trek at a convention, and then on Monday go back to work. They might enjoy putting on the appropriate gear. Some of them like to try to learn how to speak Klingon. But generally it's just something that's a really good, fun type of activity.
Why do we go to Star Trek conventions? Well, to be with people who have the same interests as us, like-minded people. Because it's very hard to find somebody who's into Star Trek as much as you.
Well, there have been Star Trek conventions since the 70s. I think the first one, they expected the number to be hundreds, and in fact there were thousands, and they've sort of grown since then. And I went to one in the Albert Hall 2 years ago, and that was an amazing experience. And actors and scriptwriters from all four series were present there, and it was interesting.
Occasionally, if you're lucky, get to meet the people who star in Star Trek, get their autographs. It's just a time for Star Trek fans to be with other Star Trek fans and socialise in a little fantasy world of Star Trek and be happy about it. Good laugh. A really good laugh. If you haven't been, guys.
It is a time to celebrate, but tomorrow we all may die. Come, let us listen some more. Live this night as if it were our last.
I was very interested in the fact that a convention which was being held at the Royal Albert Hall sold out immediately and was bringing in people from all over the world. And I was wondering, well, what in the world is getting all these people involved in this kind of activity? So I went down there with a pilot questionnaire just to ask general questions about why people were there and what they enjoyed about conventions and that kind of thing. And when I got the results in, I was just amazed at how many kind of benefits people felt that they got out of being a Star Trek fan, and decided that was worthy of further study.
I'm conducting various tests with the tricorder, but results are inconclusive.
I decided to go for it and write a book on the psychology of Star Trek and its fans, and that's what I'm finishing up right now. I think there's no doubt about it, Star Trek is very good. It's good for tension reduction, allows people to escape their everyday lives. It gives people a sense of identity. They like to associate with other fans and kind of label themselves as a Star Trek fan. The other issue I've dealt with is the extent to which interest in Star Trek could possibly go too far. And I tried to deal with that in my early research to see if people could become addicted to Star Trek and if there are any negative results of being a fan. I have actually found, although I entered the research in a very objective way, that there are a few people who meet certain psychological criteria of addiction. There are some Star Trek fans who feel that as the years go by, they do need more and more Star Trek. So whereas originally they might have been content to watch one episode a week, now they like to have something to do with Star Trek happening every day. Fortunately for them, television provides that for them because on some networks you can actually watch Star Trek every day.
All this adds up to a pattern.
By and large, the vast majority of fans are not addicted to Star Trek in the classic sense of the word. They enjoy it, they watch it a lot, they spend a lot of money on it, but they have no trouble leaving it for a short time if they wish.
Magnus Magnusson was, I think, a bit disapproving of such a flippant subject.
In the spotlight tonight, Maureen Hitchens, a retired history teacher. Her specialised subject is Star Trek.
It was my eldest son who had actually sent away for the application form. I didn't think I would get on. So many people are applying. I think about 400 people or more apply, and but I did.
And may I have our first contender, please?
It was really terrifying. I just froze. I really did freeze when I went out into that chair. It was absolutely terrifying.
Your name, please?
Maureen Hitchens.
Occupation?
Retired teacher.
Your chosen specialised subject?
Star Trek, the original series. I was sure that somebody must have answered questions on the original series sometime in the past, but apparently in all the 25 years that it had been going, they hadn't. Many people had applied, but it'd never been considered a serious enough subject.
You have 2 minutes to boldly answer questions on Star Trek.
There are only 80 episodes, actually, of the original series, and I have all them on video. So I watched them, and I also read background books on the actors and the characters.
Which episode features the first interracial kiss in US television history?
Plato's Stepchildren.
Correct.
One of the other contestants was a Star Trek fan and said he could have answered about 5 of my questions.
In the episode Spock's Brain, what instrument is used to restore Spock's brain to his body?
It's called The Teacher.
No, it's a tri-laser connector.
The 4 of us were very well bunched together. There was only 2 points between the person who won and the person who was 4th. So I only came 1 point behind the leader in the end.
Maureen Hitchens, thank you very much.
I like everything about Star Trek. Everything. Basically, to sum it up, I like the fan, being a fan. I like watching it. I like reading the books. I have Star Trek board games, Star Trek computer games. There's nothing about it I really don't like. Yeah, I like all of it.
If I were able to sum it up, I think I'd be able to make a lot of money because I would produce a show very similar to Star Trek. I really think the appeal of Star Trek is multifaceted. It's a very fortunate combination of good storylines, wonderful characters, continuity over the years, familiarity that people get with the language of Star Trek. They learn about different cultures. These things all start to seem real. Not in terms of kind of getting caught up in Star Trek as though it's true life, but you develop a familiarity with what goes on in Star Trek, and that can be very attractive to people.
I will be a fan. I will never not be a fan of Star Trek. Even if they make the next series and it's awful, I'll watch it. Yeah, it can be completely dire. It doesn't matter now. It makes no difference now. I'll still watch it. I'll be a fan now, from now to the day I die.
From science fiction to fact next on BBC Two, the scientific theory which made much of modern life and a good bit of Star Trek possible.